Mental testing and intelligence theory. Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. History of psychology. Professor Michael Botwin, California State University, Fresno. In our final installment on intelligence testing, we're going to look at the work of Howard Gardner. Gardner represents the new current breed of intellectual theorist, and he makes the point that there are many different kinds of intelligence. This is a far cry from earlier theories of intelligence, where intelligence was thought to be merely academic ability in terms of verbal and quantitative type skills. So I hope you enjoy listening about Gardner's work. I find it quite fascinating. Howard Gardner has 9 different forms of intelligence in his model. We'll go over them each briefly, but before we get started, let me explain a little bit about this model. Now, first of all, you aren't limited to having one form of intelligence. You may be high or low on any of these. And you can see they go way beyond the traditional academic forms of intelligence we've discussed so far in class. So let's look at some of Gardner's forms of intelligence and the kind of careers that are associated with them. First, logical mathematical. This is pretty no-brainer. It's basically being able to understand symbolic operations and actions that can be performed on them, to think in abstract, and things like that. Careers for people who are high on logical mathematical intelligence are mathematicians and scientists. I remember hearing a biography of Einstein and being extremely awed with the fact that Einstein could see formulas in his head. As someone who uses statistics frequently and doesn't have that ability, that one makes me very jealous. The second form of intelligence in Gardner's scheme is spatial. And this has to do with being able to perceive the visual world and transform perceptions into visual objects. Jobs for people high on spatial ability would be things like artist, engineer, people who have to understand relationships between objects in time and space. Musical intelligence is his third kind of intelligence, being able to be sensitive to musical tones and phrases, being able to combine musical ideas. As you can imagine, careers for musical intelligence are composer, musician. Doesn't take a lot of intelligence to figure that one out. Although, again, this is one that I lack, and I used to tell the joke that the only thing that I can play is my stereo. But unfortunately, stereos are a dying breed now. Kinesthetic bodily intelligence. This type of intelligence has to do with positioning your body in space. And this can be for expressive purposes like dancers, or it can be for goal-directed purposes like being an athlete, where you have to, for example, if you're a football player, you have to run a pattern and know where to end up. You have to know how to use your body to progress down the field, not to get clobbered, or if you're clobbering people, how to tackle them. Kinesthetic bodily intelligence also includes positions like firefighters, and it's important for a firefighter to know where they are within their environment for just plain safety purposes. Interpersonal intelligence, the ability to be able to distinguish people's moods and temperaments, their motives and intentions. Political and religious leaders are high in interpersonal intelligence. They're very good at being able to relate to others. Naturalistic intelligence. This is the intelligence that I like to say involves having a green thumb. And you understand the natural world, how to grow things, how to identify different life forms. Naturalistic intelligence folks can be biologists, naturalist farmers, people not like me who don't possess my brown thumb. So Gardner's theory of intelligence fits in with evolutionary theory. He says each type of intelligence has its own timetable developmentally. Some of these skills may come out early in life, some may come out later, but each has its own way of interacting and dealing with the environment through perception, learning, and memory. Gardner also says that each form of intelligence is an evolutionary adaptation, so you can see with my favoring evolutionary theory why I like Gardner's views. Each intelligence, according to Gardner, is designed by natural selection to perform a certain function or solve an important human problem. And each form of intelligence deals with specific kinds of information as inputs and outputs. For example, music intelligence involves specific types of input, rhythms, harmonies that result in certain kind of outputs. Symphonies, songs, Broadway musicals. And Gardner says that this is not the same as Spearman's little g, because people generally favor one skill set over another, and not everyone is good at all things, although there are some folks that are. Also, Gardner's theory is used to explain precocious genius. For example, we know that Mozart started performing and writing music at an extremely early age, and that it can also explain the behavior of what are called idiot savants, people who have a special, very narrow skill. For example, they can multiply large numbers, but they lack other kind of basic skills. This can include people who are high on the autism spectrum. The poster child for this is the Dustin Hoffman character from the movie Rain Man. Now, some of Gardner's intelligences fit under the second level of G in terms of a hierarchical model of intelligence, similar to Thurstone's primary abilities that were discussed in a previous lecture segment. So his primary intelligences below little g include spatial, numerical, social, verbal, logic analysis, and causal. It looks more like our traditional models of intelligence. Some intelligences are not related to little g, for example, bodily and kinetic. Does not seem to be related to intelligence in little g, and maybe some other form of aptitude. So little g and Gardner's theories are kind of consistent with a hierarchical model of intelligence, where we have abilities between the task we do and G. This has been a We Have Couches video production. Copyright 2020, Professor Michael Botwin. All rights reserved. Bye now.